everyone, welcome back to a brand new special super duper episode of the Entertainment Buddhacast. Why is it so super duper? Well, we're going to be talking about Star Wars The Force Awakens. We'll just call it the Star Wars The Force Awakens Hypecast for now. Don't have an official title. But also because we have another longtime Star Wars guru on the call and a non-EB member, maybe one day. Nick Caminita, used to work with him at another website, but he's a hardcore Star Wars guy, and none of my friends wanted to hang out with me tonight to talk, so I invited Nick to come chill with us. So, Nick, thanks again. How you doing?
Pretty good, man. I'm always excited to talk about Star Wars. You know me, so I'm ready to get on this.
Yeah, man, you got the tattoos, you got everything. So I got all the toys. I don't have any ink, but I definitely have a ton of the toys and posters and all that fun shit. So yeah, we're just we don't really have a set topic. One thing we definitely don't want to do, we don't want to start speculating on stuff that may or may not be true. Some of that stuff may pop up, so we'll give you a slight spoiler warning. Not that it technically could be spoilers, because we don't know what the fuck we're talking about either. We're just going off of what we've seen in the trailers and making educated guesses, because, you know, we know this universe inside and out. I mean, I'm a little bit older than Nick, so I kind of was around when the original trilogy came out. Well, I got to see Jedi in theaters as a 3-year-old, but I was, you know, my parents showed me the first two as a young baby. Somehow I was able to comprehend those. Yeah, I don't know, dude. I don't know how the hell I became so obsessed with these movies so young, but I know for a fact, and I confirmed it with my dad a couple weeks ago, that he did take me to Jedi at 3, and I knew everything that was going on. So obviously this movie has spoken to me since birth, really. I mean,
yeah, something that momentous will stick with you when you at that young age.
I was in my mother's womb when Empire came out, so maybe through osmosis and my, you know, through the fetal membrane, I absorbed some sort of Star Wars awesomeness. But in all seriousness, no, this movie has, well, the franchise really has driven me to become who I am. And I know that sounds weird, but there's just something about this franchise that has got me since a little kid. And outside of that 6 years of shit from 99 to 05, and even then, I mean, let's be real, I was hardcore into the prequels as far as wanting to know everything about them. Couldn't wait to see them. When Phantom Menace came out, I went and saw it 10 times in the theaters. It didn't quite hit me yet that it probably wasn't that great, but then once Attack of the Clones came along, the name first of all, and then just Hayden Christensen and the script and the acting and all the CG, that's when I finally realized, like, yeah, these are pretty terrible.
Yeah, these are not good,
and
so
they
slow down the hype train.
They are nothing like what I dreamed in my head what these would be, to tell the backstory of one of the most iconic movie characters, movie villains of all time. I mean, I'm sure, like myself, Nick, you probably dreamed your own prequels, like what they could be and how they could be awesome. And I think that's part of why they suck so bad, is because I think we all kind of had better story ideas than the creator himself.
Yeah, I think that was one of the problems, is when you have such a long period of time between the originals and the prequels, people start to come up with their own stories. Like you said, we all had these incredible, you know, plot lines played out already prior to their release, and then when the movies come out, it just doesn't meet your expectation. And I don't think that even, you know, if they were better written, you know, they probably still would have fallen a little short of what we expected. But they could have definitely done a better job than what they did. I think Lucas was way too into the CG, the special effects and everything like that, and he was less focused on the acting and the quality of the writing than he was on, you know, let's make this look as cool as it can, or let's use this new technology to make this alien do what I want it to do.
No, you're exactly right. And I mean, the guy is obviously an innovator and a genius in the industry. And, you know, while a lot of us will make fun of George, deep down, we all still have to have a deep love and respect for the man. Because first, I mean, all this shit came out of his head. You know, it did make him $4 billion. And I know now he's talked about selling it, and it's kind of like a divorce, and he doesn't really want to touch it. And I think that kind of played into the prequels. It's almost like he had this, he almost wanted to, like, murder his children or something. Like, and he's done it to the original trilogies by adding all this special crap. It's like, he couldn't leave good enough alone. I don't know. I don't understand all that shit, but whatever. It's been moved on to hopefully a better place, greener pastures, if you will, with Disney and their big purchase. And now you got Kathleen Kennedy kind of taking the reins for Lucasfilm on the producing side. And from what we've seen so far, I have no reason to believe that The Force Awakens will be even remotely as bad as the prequels. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely not, man. I mean, I think we all kind of have that feeling that JJ is going to take this and really make it something special. I mean, it's almost like he did Star Trek as an audition for the new Star Wars
That's
movies,
a good point. Yeah.
Like, he was never, I mean, he admits that he's a lifelong Star Wars fan, and then if you see what he did to the Trek by, like, kind of going off, making his own timeline, and really pissing off a lot of Star Trek fans, like, I don't think he's going to do that with Star Wars. He has such a reverence for it. This is something like, like us, this is something that he grew up with that influenced his life and kind of became his life's work. So I think that JJ is really going to kill this thing, and I have no doubts that it's going to live up to the hype.
Yeah, I mean, the moment that Kathleen Kennedy kind of twisted his arm and got him to commit was the moment I'm like, all right, this is a great first step. And then when they announced that they're bringing Larry or Lawrence Kasdan in to also work on the script, this is a guy that did Empire. I believe he directed Empire. I don't know if he directed Jedi, but a lot of people don't know. But I mean, Lucas only directed A New Hope.
Yeah, it was Kirshner. Irvin Kershner directed Episode 5. He directed Empire, and then Kasdan did 6.
Okay, yeah. So,
and then he's he's pretty much a Star Wars lifer. I mean, the guy's been around forever on the franchise, and he's going to be sticking around until Episode 8. I heard he's already in talks, or he's already been, talking to Rian Johnson about, plot points for Episode 8 and everything like that.
Yeah, that's another thing. Before we get into just homering out on The Force Awakens, what do you think about rotating directors? Do you like that idea? Do you like that plan? Or would you prefer to keep the same heads on this trilogy?
I mean, when you have a guy like Abrams doing The Force Awakens, the first one, it's hard to want to move away from him. But I think that they're bringing in a lot of talented people. I mean, if you look at Rian Johnson's last movie, Looper, obviously it was a really incredible mix of...
And JJ is going to be the EP. I mean, he is still going to...
he's not going away.
Right.
But I think it's a good idea because you get to see, the... I guess you would say the tone of the movie change a little bit based on, who's directing, and as long as they don't throw it into somebody's hands who can't handle the moment, then I think it'll be done well. And if you look at, Rian Johnson and Colin Trevorrow, obviously Trevorrow had the massive success of Jurassic World this year, so that he can take a blockbuster franchise and really produce something with it. So I like it. I like that they're gonna, change it up a little bit, but kind of keep on a consistent road, at least, with, Kathleen Kennedy being on as producer and then JJ staying on as kind of the, I guess you would say the gatekeeper for the new saga.
I mean, it worked in the original trilogy, right? We just brought that up. I mean, obviously George was heavily involved, but he was not the guy behind the camera for 2 of the 3. Which we're getting now. I guess my biggest worry is sometimes, directors, they want to kind of put their own visual stamp on things. And I just don't want a trilogy that should be coherent to have wildly different cinematography, I guess, if you will. That just makes each of the 3 movies look completely different from the next. I think as a trilogy, you got to kind of keep some elements similar throughout so it doesn't look like, oh yeah, a whole new team was working on this one, a whole new team was on that one. And I'm not saying that's going to happen. You just know sometimes directors, they have their trademarks. Some guys, they're famous for the one shot. Some guys are famous for their lens flares. I mean, it's just, I don't want to see too much visual change, but I don't think that's going to be an issue. So
No. I think that, with other franchises, I would be a little bit worried about that, but I think that, because Star Wars is what it is, and it is this massive beast, and everybody kind of knows the Star Wars look, everybody can identify the style of Star Wars. I don't think that a director is going to come in there and be like, okay, well, this is Star Wars, but this is going to be, my version of Star Wars. I think that everybody has enough respect for it that they're going to, kind of tweak their style to fit the overarching kind of consistency of the movie.
It's too bad George couldn't take that advice because
it
was his Star Wars, but he went in and fucked it up again. I mean, my wife and I were going through the original trilogy. There's no point in watching the prequels to get ready for Force Awakens, but I threw in the Blu-ray version, so they're the mucked up ones. And it like A New Hope, it's not that bad. I mean, I think the worst thing in that is obviously the Han shot first bullshit, and it's not even the argument of Han shooting first or not shooting first. It's how shitty it looks.
Yeah, I mean, like a jump cut.
Oh yeah,
to make
like
a move
like a bullet, like a laser bullet from Greedo's direction, just comes out of nowhere. Like it literally just comes out of nowhere and like shoots way up in the air. And it's hard to even remember what that scene used to be, because I remember as a little kid watching that in the first time, I'm like, damn, dude, he's a bad motherfucker. Like Han Solo's a bad motherfucker, Don't fuck with him or he'll shoot your ass. And now it looks lame. And then the Jabba scene is fucking stupid.
And the thing is with that Jabba scene, the thing that gets me is that had to have been pre-recorded like in 77 or
no, it
76.
is. I don't know if you've ever seen the behind-the-scenes clips. Jabba was going to be just a big fat human, so Harrison Ford is talking to an actual man, and then for the special edits, that's where they dubbed in Jabba. But if you notice, he walks behind him
and steps on his tail, and that looks awful.
They had to do that because of the guy. It was a human that was there, and he was walking around the human, but since they dubbed in Jabba, they had to be like, okay, Han can't just walk a circle around him without stepping on his tail, so let's try to make it look real.
Yeah, I mean, it's just that kind of shit. And then like the scene where they're driving through Mos Eisley and you see all this CG shit everywhere, and like
I think the only nice addition is right before the full attack on the Death Star that you get a little bit bigger picture of the Rebel attack force, flying out, and it doesn't look great, but for the time, it was revolutionary. Empire didn't really do much, and then again with the shit in Jedi that just guts me, because I've talked about this on pretty much any movie cast I've been on, because to me, I've always loved Jedi the most, and it's not because of the Ewoks or any of that shit. It's because of the scenes with Luke, his dad, and the Emperor at the end. I mean, that's some powerful shit when Luke beats his dad because he was kind of channeling the dark side for a little bit. But as soon as he takes him down and he sees his hand oozing wires and he looks at his own hand and he's going like, oh, fuck, I'm becoming my old man just like the Emperor wants me to. And he's like, fuck that. I'm a Jedi. I just proved it. Blah, blah, blah. And then the Emperor's like, yeah, fuck you. And he starts zapping him. And Vader's just looking back and forth like, oh, man, my kid's getting fried, but this is my master. I'm a bad guy. And he's like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm Anakin Skywalker. That's Luke. I'm going to save my kid. He sacrifices himself and chucks the Emperor down that pit. And now they ruin that awesome moment with the fucking from Revenge of the Sith, and you gotta scratch your head and be like, how does that make that scene any better? I mean,
I know. And then like to me, Vader was never the talkative type.
No.
He said what he needed to say. He's not going to be that emotional, oh my god, like I need to save my kid and vocalize it. Like he's not going to do that. Like he's a badass. And he stayed a badass, but he just realized that, I can't let this happen to my kid. What have I been doing? Like the first time I watched that, I didn't know it was in there, and I know like
it's comical.
It's
comical. It ruins any emotional impact it kills it. Because like you said, I
had to rewind it.
He was a man of few words in that moment where he literally is just looking back and forth. But as the viewer, you're sitting there and you're going, all right, it's finally getting to him that he can redeem himself by saving his son and getting rid of this fucking prune-faced motherfucker. and without saying a word, he just picks his ass up, gets electrocuted, and tosses him, and there you go. It was a beautiful thing. I mean, to me, that was the original trilogy. I identify with that scene. I don't know if it's like the bond I have with my own dad with the movies, but that was some deep shit for me. And now it's just it's lessened and it's made to be stupid, as the entire character is, thanks to the prequels and Hayden Christensen's portrayal of him. I mean, I'll forever now look at Darth, even in the original trilogy, as a whiny little bitch that hates sand and just went, yeah, you know, like, yeah, I hate him. I mean, it's just like, fuck you. That's not Darth Vader, man.
They couldn't have, I mean, like, he couldn't have written that character any worse in the prequels. And I don't know if that was his intention from the beginning, because if you listen to Lucas, he's like, oh yeah, I had these movies planned from, you know, when we first started or whatever. I don't really believe that. I think that, you know, I think he had an idea. I think he had an idea
right.
of, you know, how things were going to kind of play out in the prequels, but I don't think he had him, you know, Anakin Skywalker lined up to be like that. There's no way. I don't know if something got lost in translation in the writing. I don't know if it was the poor casting choice or what exactly led to you know, the most, I mean, Vader is ranked on a lot of these, you know, most badass villains or best villains in movie history up there, you know, top 5, top 10, and then like you said, you completely ruin that with his portrayal of Anakin Skywalker.
You can't really even take him seriously anymore. I mean, it's just
no.
Because, like, we opened up the cast going, you know, we had our own thoughts of what the prequels would be like, and I always envisioned them being almost all three being a slow, gradual, really tumultuous turn for Anakin, and the final turn would have just been tragic. What we got was a fucking joke. I mean, he turns because he thinks he can save his wife because of some dream, and he turns like that in a snap of a fucking finger.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he knows the dude's bad. He sees Palpatine fucking shooting electricity at Mace-ass Windu, and he knows Anakin's this dumb fucking gullible pussy. He's just like, I can save it. And Anakin's like, all right, yeah, fuck it. I'll cut off your hand, and yeah, now I'm Darth Vader, and I'm going to kill everybody. It made no sense. And people that try to tell me that Revenge of the Sith is actually good and redeemable, they're full of shit.
Now, the only thing I can say about Revenge is, as a movie, it's more entertaining to watch because of, you know, the fight scenes, because of the different action sequences in it compared to the other two. Like, I can't even watch Attack of the Clones. Like, the only thing in Attack of the Clones that I can watch is, like, the battle sequence on Geonosis in the Coliseum. That's the only thing I can watch.
It's horrendous. It is horrendous.
Like, 3, at least, 1, it's paced a little better than the other ones, and 2, the action sequences are a little cooler. Like, I can watch the lightsaber fight between Obi-Wan and Anakin because I think that's really well choreographed, and then, you know, obviously it switches to the fight between Yoda and Palpatine, which, again, is really well done in terms of, like, you know, the CG and everything like that, but the rest of the movie, it's just like, I don't know, man.
It just felt cheap. It was just like, man, I that's just not how I thought Vader would go down. I mean, I thought it would be a much more, he would struggle with it internally. There'd be flashes of him being evil, but, you know, sucking himself back, and then finally just something pushes him over the edge. But whatever. I'm getting angry just thinking about it. So let's move on to hopefully the movie that redeems the franchise or you know, brings its luster back. I mean, when we had a cast, Nick was on it back in April after we saw the second trailer, and that's the one for me that was really like, oh, fuck. Star Wars is back. I can embrace it again. I mean, that's when I was like, fine, I'll finally watch the Blu-rays. I hadn't watched any Star Wars really since 2005, so I went about, you know, almost 10 years avoiding it, and that's how much the prequels fucked me up with the franchise. So, yeah, I mean, going off what we know, what we've seen, again, I don't want to get too speculative here, but I'll just kind of get the discussion started. I'll go into how I think things are going to go chronologically based on what we've seen. So, I think the opening scene is going to involve Poe Dameron, who's Oscar Isaac's character.
Mm-hmm.
Someone else, there's going to be another rebel leader in BB-8, and they're going to be on Jakku's surface. I think those like night scenes we've seen of Kylo Ren landing on the desert and Phasma on the desert and the flame troopers and whatnot, I think that's how Poe gets captured and taken to the Star Destroyer, where we've seen him, getting his head zapped and all that shit. What do you think about that?
I think that's pretty close. I also I feel like it might open just because of how every Star Wars movie's open. With you get the crawl and then you go to some kind of space
something
scene.
In space, right?
Yeah. So I'm thinking that the first thing might be a battle on Finn's Star Destroyer, because obviously we see him. He's in his stormtrooper outfit, Star Destroyer or whatever.
Here's
he's
the
on
only
is being
thing I'll
blown
say
to
about
shit.
that. Here's the only thing I'll say about that. I actually believe the raid on Jakku and killing that village and capturing Poe, I think that is what
is going to lead to the.
I think that's what freaks Finn out, because somehow he gets Poe's jacket.
Yeah, that's true. He does have that.
And Poe is on that. I'm pretty sure Poe's on that Star Destroyer when Finn makes his fucking escape and crashes on Jakku. So that's the only reason I'm saying I agree with. I think there is going to be the wipe down, and we are going to see a big ass ship probably hovering over Jakku, and it may either be the Resistance talking about like, hey, we need this droid and plans and whatever and blah blah blah, or it's going to be the First Order going, hey, there's some shit going on this planet, we need to go fuck it up.
Yeah. I didn't even think about the jacket thing, but that's a good point. Yeah. So that's definitely going to be the opening. Like something that's like whatever's happening on Jakku with Finn and Rey, and then obviously with Poe being there, that's probably going to be somewhere within the first 15 minutes of the movie.
Right. I think it's going to move pretty quick to get Finn on Jakku, meet Rey. She's going to have BB-8 before she finds Finn. Obviously, we're going to get some scenes of Rey doing her scavenging, obviously, and longing to have an adventure, just like Luke, who may or may not be related to her. We don't really know that yet, but she's got to have some sort of Skywalker or Force in there. There's no way.
Yeah. Did you see? I just want to take a small tangent off of that. Like Daisy Ridley posted an interesting photo on, I don't remember if it was her Facebook or her Instagram, but it was basically it was 4 photos. It was her right across from Princess Leia. It was like a squared off 4 shot. It was Princess Leia right next to her, and then it was Han Solo right next to Kylo. And she posted that without like really putting any context behind it.
Yeah. No.
So like a lot of speculation kind of popped up around that, and it was something that like is really interesting to think about, because a lot of people, one of the original theories was that those two were brother and sister, and they were Han and Leia's kids, and that's kind of what she was hinting at with that photo.
Well, also, like, we're going around on Facebook today, and you brought up that line she says about, let's be real. This movie, the way it's shaping up, is probably going to be a New Hope 2.0. I mean, aren't you kind of feeling that way? I don't think that's a bad thing, but, Starkiller Base is essentially a planet-sized Death Star. It looks like they're even going to have some sort of trench run type of stuff. There's a droid that gets sent to a desert planet to potentially give someone a message.
Yep.
There's a young, potentially force-sensitive scavenger on a desert longing for adventure. There's going to be a swashbuckling former stormtrooper. There's a Resistance rebel pilot who's been with the rebels since he was born, so I think it's going to follow a New Hope's thing. But back to the BB-8, and she's like, yeah, it's classified too. So she knows that she was dropped on Jakku for some reason. What we don't know is, does she know who her family is? Does she know why she was left there by herself?
There was one other line, and it was like these 2 small lines kind of put things in context for me. When she was running with Finn, and I can't remember exactly what he said. He said, they're running from explosions and shit. And
he's like,
we got to find a pilot.
Exactly.
And she's like, we have one.
Yeah.
And I really think that, like, at that point, she either knows Han or she knows who he is. I don't know in what
Or
context
she's the
she
pilot
knows who
herself,
he
just
is.
like
Yeah,
Luke
she
was.
could be the pilot, like Luke was. Yeah, that's true.
Because there have been shots, and this is like we'll call it the Jakku Falcon chase, where she's fucking flying the thing. I swear
Yeah,
to God.
she's flying the Falcon. I thought, yeah, there are a few shots, and I can remember her being in the cockpit, but like for some reason, my mind immediately went to my dad has a starship, and that's where we're going.
Okay, no, that's I didn't think about that, but could be because that's kind of leading into my next thing because we are just kind of following along chronologically. So we have the night desert raid, I believe, Poe torture, Finn escapes, Finn meets Rey. Shit hits the fan, A, because Finn is a deserter, and B, I believe the First Order knows whatever the fuck the Resistance was doing on Jakku, they need to capture it, and that's potentially BB-8, or maybe they even have an idea that there's a Force-sensitive person on the planet. Who knows? Because Kylo, he goes down on that attack, and it seems his whole motivation is to honor Darth Vader, and for some reason his vision of what Darth did was skewed, but that's kind of what we found out. Like, this generation, they don't really, even when it was back, I mean, remember what Han Solo said to Luke in A New Hope? He's like, that hokey religion, we haven't, that shit's not real. Because, I mean, the Force, the Empire really did its best to eliminate the Force and the galaxy outside of their two Sith. I mean, they wiped out every Jedi but Kenobi and Yoda. So, 30, 40 years past Jedi, again, the First Order has done the propaganda. JJ's come out and said, like, they've essentially beat into people's heads that Luke Skywalker is a villain. He murdered the Emperor. He blew up the Death Star. He murdered Darth Vader. He's a bad guy, blah, blah, blah. Or Jedis aren't even real. He's a wizard, so on and so forth.
Yeah. That was, like, really hinted at in the first trailer where you saw Han talking to Rey and Finn, and he's like, when he tells them, like, the dark side, the Force, this is all real. So obviously there's a lot of propaganda going on.
Well, here's some other good stuff. Read an article or an interview with Ford this week where he says that line and the Chewie "We're home" lines are both taken out of context as they're used in the trailer. So, when we saw the Chewie "We're home," we were all like, oh, wow, they find the Falcon again. Basically what Ford said was that's not really how it was used. It could potentially mean we're back where we met. We're back where our former pirate base used to be, our smuggler base used to be, something like that. As well as him talking about the Jedi, and it's true. There's more dialogue to that than what we heard.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess when you take it out of context, you take that little snippet, you do kind of apply it to whatever. Of course,
and that's why the trailers have been brilliant, because they don't. There is no chronology in the trailers. You'll get shots of scenes that are probably at the end of the movie at the beginning, where, last week when that BVS trailer came out, it literally showed all three arcs of a traditional movie. It showed the opening, the setup, it showed the conflict, it showed the climax and the resolution. It's like, what the fuck? I mean, you literally just showed the whole movie.
Yeah, the only reason you have to watch Batman vs. Superman now is to see the formation of the Justice League at the end.
Yeah.
Like, that's the only reason to watch it.
I mean,
now.
I still want to go see it because I like geeky movies, but it's like they didn't leave any mystery. I mean, none. It's like these Force Awakens trailers, we've seen so much, but we've seen nothing. Like, we still have no idea what's going on besides a general broad outline, which could also be completely fake. And that's why I think just keeping Luke out of all promotional material has been a brilliant move. I mean, it's just been brilliant because it adds so much mystery, and I want to know what the fuck is going on with him, because I think he obviously is going to play a major role in this trilogy, and we know he's at least going to be an 8 because Hamill's contractually obligated to have his beard again, and I believe he was over in Ireland filming some test footage or whatever, because that's where they filmed some of the shit for episode 7. So I guess all right, so they're on the planet. Do you think Rey and Finn somehow run into Han and Chewie on Jakku?
It seems like they have to, because you see the the scenes of the Falcon flying over or flying through the wreckage that's on Jakku, being chased by the TIE fighters. And I think that's when they have the kind of the hard cut where you go inside of the Falcon and you see Finn and Rey, BB-8, Chewie, and Han. So they're all there. Now, could that just be, them kind of fooling you with cuts?
Right,
That could
right,
be way later.
right.
We don't know, but it seems like that's how it's going to go down. Is they're going to, why Han is on Jakku? We don't know.
That's the interesting stuff. Is like, how does Han and Rey, excuse me, and Finn and Chewie, how the fuck do they meet up? There's got to be a reason behind it. I don't think it's just going to be a random encounter. I mean, there's got to be some reason behind it, and that's what I'm excited to find out next week when this movie finally drops.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell
exactly.
they do? So from there, they team up, and I believe, they'll have their talk about the Force, this, that, and the other thing. And I believe the next stop, at least for the heroes, are going to be to find Maz Kanata.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say,
who apparently she's not a Yoda species, but apparently lives thousands of years.
Okay.
And that's been confirmed. There was the press conference this week. Someone asked Lapita if she had known Yoda, and she was kind of hesitant to say anything, and JJ kind of stepped in like, I'll go ahead and save her here, and blah, 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 blah. So, and there's been speculations that Maz is Force sensitive, but has been around for so long. She's seen the rise of the Republic, probably the fall of the old Republic, the rise of the Empire, the rise of the First Order. When she's talking about, I've seen these eyes before, this, that, and the other thing. And I think that's the alien hand that we see handing Anakin's or Luke's lightsaber to what has to be Leia's hand in the second trailer. But it's been rumored that Maz, since she is this smuggler's queen, that used to be Han's like mentor or boss.
Okay, yeah, that's definitely believable. I mean, and just the way, like, you only get to see a few seconds of them kind of entering Maz's, I don't know if you would call it fortress or home base or whatever it is, but he looks like he's definitely reminiscing, and he's like looking up at this big droid
right
as it walks by. He's been there before, and he's kind of like hesitant. I don't know if it's kind of a relationship like he used to have with Lando, where it was like based on kind of a mutual partnership, and then they kind of split up, or what the deal is. But it's gonna be. I'm really interested to see how their interaction is gonna play out.
Yeah, I think they're definitely homies from many years past. Or she somehow had a hand in Han's upbringing as a smuggler and space pirate. Now, do you think the scenes we've seen, the battle shots on the green planet, the all green, where some of the recent trailers, Rey looks up in the sky and sees all these TIEs coming in, and you got the X-Wings skimming across the lake, and they're kind of like blowing up this castle. Do you think that's the same location as Maz's hideout, and the First Order found out where they are and they attacked that, or do you think that's a completely different planet and a whole other deal?
I think when I first saw it, my mind went to Yavin 4. And the only reason it did is because during certain areas and during certain instances in those fights, you could see like ruins. You could see like almost what looked like the compound that you saw in Episode 4 when they were preparing for the assault on the Death Star. So that really kind of, and if you remember when they did I think it was the X-Wing shot of Luke coming in to the Yavin 4 base in episode 4, you saw this massive forest, green forest.
Yeah, no, I mean, it could be the Resistance. It could be their base for sure. I mean, we've seen shots of only Rey. We didn't see Finn, but entering the command room where Leia's at the head of the table, and you saw Akbar over there on the side. C-3PO with his red ass arm was in there too. So yeah, it could very well be their planet, which at that point, then I would assume that the First Order finds them out, attacks them, and then that potentially is what spurns on their attack on Starkiller Base, which is what I'm guessing is going to be the snow planet where we've seen Kylo confront Finn. We've now seen Rey take off with the Falcon and crash it into the snow, like kind of skipping rocks. So I know I didn't want to speculate much, but I mean, it's been shown in the trailers. Do you believe that is Finn on the ground when Rey is crying over it?
At first, my first
look
thought
at the jacket. I mean, that
I
know
me,
that's like the giveaway here.
Yeah, my first thought was it was Chewie, and I don't know why I went there
Well,
first
no,
because
there's
like
Harry. Trust me,
yeah,
you're
I'm gonna
not
say there's a lot of
alone.
hair. There's a lot of
There's
hair.
hair, and you can see it with the lighting.
So that was my first thought, and but like that jacket keeps coming back, and it keeps coming back in small little snippets where they're like trying to hint at you, like here's the jacket on Poe, and then here's Finn wearing the jacket, and here's that jacket again, or like what looks like it on
Right.
when Daisy or when Rey is kind of huddling over that character. So like it keeps popping up, but I'm hesitant to say that it's Finn just because well, I mean, I don't want to. It's like we don't even know, what the situation is or why she's over him. But to me, I would think that it's Chewie, and like this goes back to something that I had heard from Joss Whedon, like when he was writing the Serenity movie. He was like, if there is a war going on and you have all of your main characters and none of them die, then there is no sense of real fear there. Like you have to lose somebody for
Well,
the
no, you're right,
audience,
and that's why he's
yeah,
so
to
pissed that
understand
they
that.
brought Coulson back for Shield because he felt kind of betrayed by that because that was a big emotional moment in the first Avengers, and then they just fucking shit on
Yeah, they're
it.
like, oh, nope. So like to me, the most logical character to die would be Chewie because he's the long-standing guy. He was even there in the prequels, one of the longest-standing
Yeah.
characters in the saga. But like people have an emotional attachment to him, but not as much as they have an emotional attachment to say Han or
Well, hey,
Leia or
it
any of
could
the
be Han
speaking
too. Who the
characters.
fuck
It could be
knows?
Han. That like somebody told me too. Somebody was like, it could be Han. It kind of looks like Han's, vest or something like that. So there's a lot of it could be's. I think it's Chewie though.
Well, here's why I'm sliding towards Finn, and I'm not even saying he could be murdered. I think he may be getting the first limb chopped off in the new trilogy because I believe that shot takes place after Kylo confronts him with his Fury saber.
In the forest.
Because
Yeah.
when you see Kylo just fucking lumbering towards him, Finn's face goes from
He's
"all right, I got a lightsaber" to "oh shit."
yeah, he's like getting ready to shit his pants.
Yeah,
And it's pretty clear that like Finn is not adept in lightsaber combat.
which I think has been great because it's got a lot of people pissed off. I mean, even my buddy who's a longtime Star Wars guy is like, "Man, they made Finn the Jedi." I'm like, "Dude, there's no way. It's a ruse. I'm telling you.
Yeah, that's what I've been thinking
All
the
this
whole
shit's a
time.
ruse." I want to know how the fuck he gets Luke's lightsaber for sure. And he looks, I mean, you're right. He doesn't look competent, but in some of the new footage where we see him fighting the First Order trooper that can actually deflect lightsabers now, which is pretty rad.
Hmm.
I mean, Finn's got some sort of swashbuckling skills. I mean, he doesn't look like a complete idiot, but I still do not believe he is the force sensitive person for the trilogy, which could leave him up to be killed, and which may spurn Rey to accept her fate as what we've assumed Maz is saying, like, hey, you have the force, you just need to let it in, toots.
Yeah,
And maybe
exactly.
watching Finn, her new buddy, either get maimed or potentially killed, that's what finally gets her, her shit in gear. Like, all right, I'm gonna do this
Hmm.
shit.
And then like even JJ came out and said that this is still a continuation of the Skywalker story. So we know that there is somebody in here that is not Luke or Leia that is a Skywalker in some way, shape, or form.
Right.
You know, it's probably not Finn because let's just be honest here.
Well,
Neither one.
I mean, a toy may have spoiled Finn's heritage, and I'm not going to bring it up because I don't know if you know it. I don't want to say it, but
I haven't seen it.
okay,
But
yeah,
yeah,
there's a toy out there that supposedly lists his true last name, and it's
could it be from the Blackest Man in the Galaxy
I,
from the original?
again, I'm not saying anything.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that it's like I still believe it's Ray. I think you still believe it's Ray.
I'm
Now,
100% it's Ray, especially with all the shit
yeah,
they're like, women are going to be featured in this, blah blah. I really think it's her.
yeah, and I mean, going back to the lightsaber thing, no competency with it. I mean, there's nobody to train them. Then again, I mean, obviously, like we were talking about before, the First Order has kind of squashed everything about Luke. He's this villain. They've stamped out all of the good Jedi in the galaxy. So if you are a budding Force user, you happen onto a lightsaber. I mean, who are you going to go to for training? You don't know anybody who's going to be able to teach you how to use a lightsaber without chopping off your own hand.
Well,
So like you just kind of got to do with what you got.
going back to that scene, I mean, the stormtrooper fighting him looks pretty fucking competent too. So maybe Finn had, you know, melee or some sort of training with that stormtrooper stick.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I'm talking about, right? Well, he like whips it out.
Yeah,
It's almost
he like whips it out of
a
his arm.
baton. He's like, wait. And I mean, that
Yeah.
trooper, compared to the troopers from the original trilogy who were essentially retarded, I mean, he looked pretty competent fighting. So we know Finn at least has been trained his entire life because, you know, the First Order, they can script people and indoctrinate them about, you know, Luke is bad, rebels are bad, resistance is bad, kill. So, I mean, he's obviously he's a skilled warrior at that point, but it's going to be Finn, and I think that's going to be awesome. I think it's going to be great to see a female Luke, essentially, is what she's going to be, where she comes to grips with her Force affinity in this movie. Second one is where she fully embraces it and wants the training. Third one is where she will defeat probably Kylo.
Yeah. Whoever he is to her.
Right.
I still feel like there could be a family bond there.
Without a doubt. I've kind of had that feeling too.
And I mean, like, I'm going to go into a little like a 2-minute old EU thing, but this is basically just a rewriting of the Jacen and Jaina Solo story from the old EU, because that's what, you know, Jaina was the good Jedi, you know, worked her way up in the Jedi Order, became really famous, really well-respected Jedi, and then Jacen went the other way, became the new Sith Lord of the galaxy.
Oh yeah, I mean, he went like way off the deep end, right? I mean, he was like hardcore.
Yeah, he went crazy, found like this long-lost Sith teacher, found somebody who trained under Vader at the time, and in that story, he was working and kind of following the teachings of his grandfather. He showed a lot of reverence to Darth Vader, thought that he was, you know, very kind of got the shit end of the stick of everything, and he was kind of working towards that idealized version of the galaxy that he thought that Vader stood for. So, like, having read that and then seeing how this is playing out in the new movies, there's a really strong similarity between the two.
God, and I'm getting so excited just talking about it, dude. I'm like, fuck, I want to watch this movie.
Yeah, man. I mean, and then, like, even, it's funny, too, because we were talking about Lucas before and how he kind of, you know, doesn't want to be involved with it. And he was kind of talking shit before, you know, he saw the movie, or like a few weeks ago, you would see these articles coming out where he's like, well, this isn't my version of the story. This isn't how I would have done it. You know, I'm not going to make a movie just for fan service. I would just want to tell the story and everything like that. And then they had another article come out recently where he's like, he saw it and he's like, I really liked it.
Well, I know what you're talking about. I still think he was being passive aggressive. He's like, oh, this is definitely the movie fans want to see, as in, you know, again, like you said, he never felt like he needed to cater to anyone. He wanted to make his own projects, and look where that got him. You know, most people people have made documentaries about it, and I don't know. I think this thing's going to be freaking amazing. I think it's going to set up a great lore for the next two movies and moving forward. I mean, Disney has already said they're committed to make Star Wars until no one wants to see it anymore. So
the only thing I'm worried about is they did come out and say that they're going to try to put out a new Star Wars movie every year, and like at first that sounds awesome, but then you're going to get that fatigue. Like everybody, like you can compare it to video games with Call of Duty and
I mean, look at Marvel's success. They've put out multiple Marvel movies every year since 2007, right? I mean,
yeah, it's a good point.
I think that, and I think that's what they're going to interject the one-offs, you know, like the Star Wars. I forget what they themed them, but you know, like Star Wars Tales, Rogue One, and then Star Wars Tales, Han Solo, and all that shit. I think Rogue One has potential to be fantastic just because how closely it leads right into A New Hope. I mean, it literally should end with the Rebels handing Leia the fucking plans on the Rebel blockade runner, and that's it. Because, I mean, that's what this movie is. It's how they get the Death Star plans.
Yeah, that would be a great way to end it. And, I mean, I can't remember who they announced as the director for it, but, like, they've shown a few, like, I guess you would say, it was like set shots and stuff like that with everybody in their costumes, and it looks like a different Star Wars movie. It looks different than anything that we've seen from Star Wars so far.
Yeah. Yeah,
And it looks like it could be
I
awesome.
think these one-offs are going to be neat because I mean, like we've never had a Star Wars movie like that. They've always been part of a larger series of sequels, prequels, so on and so forth. So the one-offs that kind of just fill in the lore that we've heard about but have never seen. There's tons of potential.
Yeah.
I mean, the young Han Solo stuff, I'm always hesitant about that because if you don't get the right actor and they don't look the same, it is kind of jarring, like if you don't get a young guy that looks somewhat like Harrison Ford did back in the 70s. I know they're movies and it's all fake, but it does just kind of break the illusion a little bit.
Yeah, you want to try to keep it as close as you can. I mean, obviously, there's a huge push. I don't know how huge it is anymore, but like at the time of its announcement, everybody was like, Pratt, you got to go with Pratt for the new Han Solo. But like, I don't know. It's just like you're starting to overexpose him a little bit.
Well, I
Like,
love Pratt, but he's the same character in every movie, and it works great
yeah,
for him, and I think he's hilarious, but, I mean, Star-Lord was the same as the fucking Jurassic Park guy, was the same as the dude on... I think the most different role he had was, shit. What was the one where Yo Queen, or whatever the fuck his name is, falls in love with an operating system? Her.
her, yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
her.
that's like Pratt. I didn't even know Pratt used to be fat until I saw that movie, but he used to be a somewhat
Oh yeah,
chubby dude.
when he was in Parks and Rec. I don't know if you ever watched Parks and Rec, but that's like where he got his start. He was a fat ass dude. Like
Yeah, it's crazy.
like
You see him in
it's funny when
Guardians
you
with
look
his
at it.
shirt off. He's fucking swolled up, and he even has abs. It's like, damn, dude.
Yeah.
Hollywood steroids pays
Yeah,
off.
man. When you get that movie deal that says you can make, X millions of dollars if you get a six pack and put on a little bulk,
Oh yeah,
then
anyone could lose weight. There's no doubt, no doubt.
yeah, but
Money talks.
I mean, I'm trying to think of I know they had like they I don't know if they had talked about this before, if this is like a figment of my imagination, but like I heard of a one-off Yoda movie.
No,
And
you're right. There's been talks of one-off Boba Fett. We know the
mhm.
one-off Solo's pretty much legit. There's so much that they could dig into now that George doesn't have his hooks in it, and you got all these creative people working on it. So it's gonna get good. I mean, look at I've actually thought the cartoons were great. I love the Clone Wars. I'm enjoying Star Wars Rebels. Um,
I gotta hop on the Rebels train, man.
it's good.
Like
It's good. It's good.
I've been working slowly through Clone Wars, and I definitely want to get in on Rebels pretty soon because like you said, I mean, it's really good, and I've heard that from other people as well. So I'm definitely gonna either I don't know, I don't have Disney XD on my cable package, so I gotta find a way to watch it. I'm sure that there's some not some questionable
Oh
methods for me to
yeah,
get
I'm
it.
sure you could figure it out. There's you could also, if you want to just pay, iTunes has it and all that shit.
Okay, iTunes got it.
But
Okay.
no, it's definitely a good show. It just wrapped its, I think it's on break or it finished. It does like micro seasons more or less. And we're way off topic now, but I don't know if you watched the Droid Tale stuff. Those were fucking amazing. It's
No, I
like
haven't seen
Lego Droid Tales. There was 5 of them, essentially retold the 6 main movies. It is brilliant. I mean, funny as shit. All sorts of inside jokes about the franchise, and it's it's that Lego humor. It's just it
Yeah,
was fantastic. I don't
I'll
know if
have
you
to
watch
watch those.
any of the Lego Star Wars cartoons are well worth your time, like the Yoda Chronicles and all that shit.
Okay.
Definitely worth getting into.
See, like now that you mention that, it reminds me of that one project that had popped up for a little bit before Lucas sold it to Disney, and it was called Star Wars Detours. I don't remember if
No,
you
yeah,
watched the trailers
I know
for
what
it.
you're talking about. Yeah.
That was a hilarious little thing they put together, and that was always something that like even after it went to Disney that I was hoping would kind of surface again. But it's just it was one of those things that it was irreverent. It had like a Valley Girl, Princess Leia. It had the two dumbass little stormtroopers and shit like that. It was really funny. If the people listening to this haven't seen anything of Star Wars Detours, go to YouTube and search that. It'll be a few good laughs for you. But trying to figure out a way to veer back onto the path. And there is like one character or a couple of characters that we really haven't seen anything of, you know, other than Luke, and that's Supreme Commander Snoke.
Yeah, you're with me, man. Our force is tuned, because that's what I was thinking. Like, do you think this guy is gonna have Sith powers? Is he Plagueis like some people are saying? I mean, he obviously knows something about the Force, because his voiceover was in the first trailer ever. Like, and we now know he was talking to Kylo Ren, basically going, "Hey, have you felt this? Something is happening." That's what I'm saying. Like, they've finally sensed Rey's presence, and they're like, "Oh shit, we just got a light side of the Force beacon going on. We need to go nip this in the bud."
Yeah, we got to head down to Jakku and get this out of the way. I mean, and it would fit along with that whole, you know, mirroring of the original trilogy. Obviously, you have Kylo as the new Darth Vader-like character, and then that leads to there has to be another guy above him, because as you know, if you're a Star Wars fan, Sith come in two. The rule of two. There's always a master and an apprentice, and the apprentice's ultimate goal is to kill the master and rise to that ranking. So you would figure that Snoke has some kind of Force ability. Is he Darth Plagueis? I don't know. I mean, to me, it would be a stretch, and it would be really weird.
No, I agree.
Like, Plagueis is one of those guys that unless you're really into the old EU, you only really know him from that one conversation that Sidious had with Anakin.
Right, he supposedly was murdered by Sidious so he could become the Master Sith. And everyone's come out flat out said Kylo is not a Sith.
Yeah, exactly. He's just one of those guys. He
is a Knight of Ren. There's a new organization called the Knights of Ren, and we've seen a scene of them in that rain where it looks like multiple Knights of Ren are there. They're all kind of wearing the same face mask, but they have like a thing with the Sith, and his lightsaber, the way it looks the way it does is because it's based on like ancient Sith lightsaber design, and the crossguard, it's actually exhaust ports.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that.
It's like so out of control with power that it actually needs to fume out some of it because the main blade. And that Chinese trailer, dude, my favorite part was you finally got to hear Kylo's blade, and that shit just sounds furious. I mean, it does not sound like a lightsaber. It doesn't have that hum. It definitely reflects the way it looks.
Yeah, and that was something that a lot of people are pointing to, because they're saying, you know, obviously Kylo didn't have a lot of training. I mean, back in the day when you had Jedi and Sith, that was one of their trials. You know, you make your lightsaber. And he doesn't have anybody to show him how to do it. He doesn't know what he's really doing. And obviously he's going off of, like you said, old ancient schematics, or, you know, just this old way of doing it. And, you know, he puts together this beast that just, you know, expels so much energy that it has this insane look to it. The fluctuations and the energy on the blade, the mean ass roar that it has when he's holding it up to Rey's face. I mean, this is a lightsaber like you've never seen, even in any of the video games.
Well, I was gonna say, didn't KOTOR, you could get kind of unstable crystals to make it look a little wiry like Kylo's? Or
it was in, I think it was in The Force Unleashed, because they had the.
Oh yeah, that's it. No, you're completely right. That's it.
Yeah. They had 3 of them. They had the condensed blade, which is like, it almost looked like a, you know, a limp dick version of a lightsaber. Then you had the normal, and then you had the unstable, which is as close as you're going to get to Kylo's blade in the new movie.
Good call on that. So yeah, no, Snoke's definitely the other big mystery, and I mean he's what I think's fantastic. Again, why I love JJ. He's only one of 2 full CG characters in this movie. The other one is Maz, and I just think that is beautiful. That it's not just going to be a fucking green screen fest and characters all over the place. And George, again, he pushed the medium forward. I mean, that's what made digital film popular and why it's so widely used these days. But he just, like we talked at the beginning of the show, just overboard. He was just consumed. It was essentially a tech demo. Like, hey, look what we can do now. Look what my guys cooked up. We're smart as shit. It looks comparable, but the movie might not make any sense. It might not be good, but holy shit, look at all those digital characters we have on screen. We have 2,000 shots that needed CG work in it. It's like, okay.
It's like, not necessarily a good thing. But yeah, it was like a kid who really got too obsessed with a toy, a brand new toy, and he just wanted to use it in any way that he could.
Yeah.
I mean, even like just even things. I mean, like we can all recall shots of where he's using CG and stuff where he really didn't even need to.
Oh yeah, no,
And
it's just like, hey, let's just do it.
yeah, but yeah, just the amount of practical effects in this movie is impressive. I mean, I remember seeing one of the first what was it, Force for Change things that he did. That charity that he did with O Maze.
Yep.
And right when it started, and one of the first things you saw was just this incredibly built practical alien creature walking behind him as he's talking. And I mean, that really set the tone for this whole movie, is that we're not going to be, the CG movie again. We're not going to have all of these
Oh yeah, I
weird
mean, dude, he
aliens.
built full-size Falcon and X-Wing sets.
Yeah.
I mean, legit, literally, like where we see them all getting ready for battle. Most of those are fucking real. I mean, someone built those damn ships sitting there. It's nuts.
Yeah, and I mean, when you have Disney behind you, and it's obviously Star Wars, they're not gonna say, oh, you don't want to spend money on that. They're gonna be like,
well,
yeah,
dude,
you take
I think
whatever you need.
The budget was like 400 million or something like that.
And it's already, from what I've heard too, it's already made like 50 or 60 million, and it hasn't even come out yet.
Dude, there's no
This is
doubt in
just
my
a
mind.
Pre-order.
When that shit went pre-order, I've never seen a film in my lifetime shut down every movie ticket outlet on the planet. I mean, they were all taken out for a period of time. You couldn't do Fandango. You couldn't do movie tickets. You couldn't even go to individual theaters. I mean, that's how many people were buying pre-orders. I got into it. I mean, it took me probably 2 or 3 hours. I bought fucking 3 screenings just because, like, well, fuck, if it's this hot and I'm probably going to want to see it again, I'm just going to get all 3 of my screenings done in the opening weekend. I've never seen a film do that, so there's no doubt in my mind that this movie is going to... I bet its opening weekend, it does $500 million.
Oh yeah,
I
mean,
really,
I
I
have no
really
doubt
think
of
it's
that.
going to be close to 500 million by Monday morning.
Yeah, it's kind of funny too that you had the movie in Jurassic World this year that busted all these box office records, and pretty much everybody knows. Like, it's not even a thought in anybody's head that Star Wars isn't going to break that. Like, Star Wars is going to bust up whatever Jurassic World put out and then some.
Well, it's the one it's got to shoot for is Avatar. Avatar is like a 2 billion worldwide gross when it was in theaters or something.
Yeah, and I think it's going to do that easily,
Without a doubt,
of people like us. Like, you already have 3 tickets. I'm going to see it at least 3 times. I know that I'm going to the 7 p.m. on the 17th. I'm definitely going to be seeing it again. I got a movie theater that's like 3 blocks away from my place. So, if I'm sitting around while the movie's in theaters and I'm like, man, I don't really have anything to do, I'll just hop on over to the theater, go watch it again.
Oh, dude, without a... I mean, that, like I said, I saw Phantom Menace way back in 99 10 times in theaters, and movies weren't even that great then. You couldn't even reserve your own seat. So, yeah, I'm doing 7:30 Thursday night, 3D. Friday afternoon, fat-ass, cushy recliner 3D. I'm a 3D junkie. And then Sunday, an ultra screen IMAX with Dolby Atmos, just to kind of get all of them. And then potentially when I'm down in Florida with my mom and sister, I might go catch a 2D screening, hopefully a 2D pure IMAX. But yeah, I mean, hopefully it's good, because I already dropped like $100 on tickets. I think it's gonna be fantastic.
Yeah, I just can't see it. Like, obviously, this is probably one of the biggest hyped movies in the history of film, just because of the pedigree that it has behind it. And, the one impressive thing about Star Wars for me is that this trilogy, this saga, has lived on since 1977. So we're coming up on, 40 years, or, of it being in existence, and it hasn't lost steam. Like, people are still as excited for this movie as they were for, episode 1 when it came out, or even episode 6 when that came out.
Yeah.
And, it's crossed generational gaps. It's crossed, the gaps in
I mean,
filmmaking.
Star Wars will be studied just like we study Shakespeare. You know, if humanity is around 100 years from now, it will be studied as this era's biggest pop culture creation ever. I mean, it will be taught. Just like we've read shit, you know, the Iliad and the Odyssey. I mean, it's going to be there. That's how impactful it is. So it's good to be back. And I'm not kidding. Like, when I watch these new trailers or listen to music, I do get emotional. It's not to be funny. It's not to prove I'm a fan. It's not to over exaggerate. I mean, this morning when I heard that song, when it hits like this crescendo, I literally well up every time. I don't know why.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously it's based on my childhood. I think some stuff with my dad's mixed in there. I just think within me, like, yeah, you know, that fucking gets me amped up. Like, this is the franchise that molded me into this geeky person I am. And I can't wait to celebrate it again. I can't wait to go watch a new movie. Because let's face it, I don't think any of us ever thought there would be more Star Wars movies. I mean,
no. I mean, like,
I think after the prequels, we were all like, well, fuck, that's it.
Yeah, I would say that's it. And like, they released that Clone Wars movie in theaters, but that wasn't really a movie. I mean, I think
it's good, but it's a cartoon. I mean, it's not.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not live action
Star
Wars. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and I think like we had all kind of held out hope, because every now and then after the prequels came out, there were like rumblings like, you know, George Lucas did work on an episode 7, 8, and 9 at one point. So like, hope was kept alive at like kind of these intervals where people were always kind of wondering, like, I wonder if we're going to get another one. I wonder if we're going to get another one. And then obviously you had video games that kind of kept you going along. But I mean, until Disney made that acquisition, it was kind of a dark time for Star Wars fans, you know?
Yeah, yep. Video games were getting canceled for no reason. The cartoons were getting... I mean, the Clone Wars got shortchanged so hard. I'm surprised Disney did that, because it was really building up on a strong note to kind of close it out and show, you know, kind of Anakin's starting to turn a bit, you know, leading up into episode 3, and they literally just killed the season midway, and it never really had a good conclusion.
And I mean, obviously one of the big things that it was leading up to, and that was you had the eventual meeting of Ahsoka and Anakin. Like that was the ultimate.
Well, Rebels is trying to pick that up, because she is in Rebels now, and she's obviously much older. She dual wields white lightsabers, but her thread is she senses that this Vader guy is someone. She pretty much has a good idea who it is.
Yeah.
Because
I definitely
before then,
get on it.
Well, I mean, this happened in the Clone Wars, but eventually she gets banished from the Jedi. And literally, then the cartoon just pretty much ends. So you don't really get any of that. But thankfully, they bring her back in Rebels, and you can kind of see where her thread is going. And in this last episode, she was in it and just fucking badass. I mean, she took the Inquisitors, which are like Vader's wannabe Sith henchmen, and just made them look stupid. So I think they're building up towards an eventual showdown between former Padawan and Master.
Yeah.
So,
and then, like, going back to what you said about these video games getting canceled, like, I have a buddy that worked on the Star Wars MMO, the Old Republic, and I was having a conversation with him when we were talking about the new movie, and I was like, oh, you know, it'd be cool if they put the crossguard lightsaber in the game, because, like, I mean, like, the hype is real for me right now. Like, I went back, I'm playing that game pretty regularly just to get my Star Wars fix in. And the one thing he said to me was like, it'll never happen, and I'll tell you why. It's because Lucas hated that game, and he was never a big fan of video games in general. So, like, all of this stuff, like with Star Wars games being canceled before Disney's acquisition, there never really being, you know, a huge Star Wars game release, it probably had something to do with Lucas.
Oh, it totally did. I don't know if you read Andrew Reiner's, like, super duper report on LucasArts, but he did an in-depth one. It's probably a year or two ago, and they got people to interview, you know, not named, but they're like, yeah, I mean, George would come in and completely blow up a project with these dumb ideas, and we'd all be like, all right, well, it's George, I guess we got to do it, and this, that, and the other thing. So All right, dude. Well, I think you and I could probably talk about this for hours on end. But I need to start get moving on with the night. So I think we're gonna go ahead and put an end to our Star Wars: The Force Awakens, Star Wars et al. Hype Fest, geek out, freak out cast. But it's been enjoyable. I always I like. I mean, I could talk Star Wars all the time. I mean, that's what makes us geeks. We love talking about stuff that we're passionate about that doesn't necessarily come from the real world. I mean, this movie has no effect on real life whatsoever, but we love it.
Yeah.
We love jiving on it. I can't wait to see it go next Thursday, and we'll surely have a post-viewing cast to kind of revisit some of our theories, hopefully to just gush about how great it was and not any negativity. So that's we'll be coming at you within the next week and a half or so with our post-viewing cast. So thanks again, Nick. Anything you want to plug before we shut this thing down?
Not too much, man. Just go see the movie. I mean, that's all I wanted to say to you guys. I mean, I know if you're listening to this, you're a huge Star Wars fan. Make sure to go see the movie, see it 100 times. And just drink it in, because this is probably going to be the biggest hype fest and maybe one of the best Star Wars movies we've ever seen.
Without a doubt. Well said. So, all right, people. You know where to find the cast. You know where to make yourself a better geek one post at a time. That is entertainmentboo.com. And I'm Matt Haywood signing off. May the Force be with you.